Told you, I was in that play. It's just so.
Testing, testing. Testing. Let us know if you guys have any problems with the audio. We're lost without Betty.
Yes, I know. Our bubbly other half is not here. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. And I'm so glad to see many of you back again. Tonight, we're going to be discussing funeral planning and legacies. And the first speaker will be Linn Ann Griffin with Strong and Jones. And then she'll be followed by Sarah Taylor with Life Song. So yes, we'll have questions afterward. So I'll be
It's supposed to stay alone. That's the hurricane, and sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. Okay, at any rate, I'm here tonight. My name is Linn Ann Griffin. I've been a funeral director for the past close to 50 years here in the Leontown, Tallahassee area, serving all areas within this county. About pre-need. That's a topic that few people want to discuss. Nobody thinks they're gonna leave here. We all came here to stay forever. And few people really want to face reality that we're gonna leave. In 1980, during the 1980s, this was, I can remember back, I might be wrong on dates. The state of Florida started a program, the Funeral Service Inc., that started for having the pre-need. At that time, pre-need was just strictly burial because that's what most people did. Now, no people thought of other ways. Everybody just went to the cemetery and was buried. And the reason they started this program, there were funeral homes in the state of Florida that was taking money from people to pay for their burial. But they, at the time of their death, they did not have the money in place. So the state organized a program that would be licensed where you can pay your money for your funeral and turn it into the state of Florida. And the state handles that trust fund. And that way, that was started, like I said, in the 80s. But pre-need, like I said, now is open field. There's so many different kinds of things, especially in my race. Black people 20 years ago were not cremated as much. But now I guess about 30% of my business is cremation. So pre-need is where, I guess we'll talk about pre-need. Pre-need is where a person comes into a funeral establishment. And then there are other companies that she has where you can go direct and make your funeral. Then there are insurance companies that handles pre-need as well. And so therefore we have different options about doing your pre-need. You don't just have to come and do a burial pre-need. You can go to an insurance company, or your insurance company that you may have might do it. You can go to a cremation service, and then there are burial services that are out there now that handles pre-need services as well. The type with most people is when you come in and you select what type service you want. The type of service that we give most of it is cremation and burial. But then there's burial by sea. Some people want to be buried by to go out to sea. And that is most of a service being who want to do that. But it has to be approved and it has a little thing that go with it. But some people do want that. Then some people want to be donated their bodies to science, the medical school. But the bad part about that is you can do it, but the medical school has the choice of looking at your body after you die, and they can reject your body. They don't have to take it because that's what you want to do. They can decline it, but they're looking for certain types of bodies that they want to study. So therefore, some people, but that's in their will, it's in the family at that time have to make another decision for their bodies. But most people, like I say, have either burial or cremations. And they come in and they set the price, what they want, and tell you what they want. I have some people want to do the whole 9 yards. They want to do the casket, they want to do the clothing, they want the cemetery, the vault, and everything included within there. They want to do all 9 yards. Even some people I get one. We have funeral, most of you all probably just have a little funeral books. But in the Black area, we use funeral programs. But I don't know if you'll see any of the programs, but we do a little different in that way. And they can come in and do everything they want at that time. If someone wants, if they have not purchased a cemetery, they will purchase one so that they have everything in order for their family. And some people even purchase more than one, they purchase plots for their families. So that if they have 8 people in the family that want to be buried or so, they have a plot for 8, a plot for 2 or 3 people, other than how many people they have in their family. So that's what pre-need is basically. You give all your statistics that you give for the death certificate, the person that you would like to be in charge of your funeral. And sometimes that person dies before that person has done, so they have to change that over. Because we never know who's going to die first. Cremation is basically, with the cremation, you determine that you want your body cremated. Your family doesn't have to go through that decision on making what they're going to do with the body, because they've already given you permission to cremate that body. So therefore, the family just have to, deal with that. Some families don't want it, but that was what their mother paid for, or father, whoever paid for. So we have to go along with it. And basically, the insurances work just like insurance. If you use an insurance company, they take your age, date of birth, and they set up the plan. But that policy you get there is just for your burial. And it's in trust until, and whatever is left over, will they have, but they have a beneficiary. If not, they have a funeral home as a beneficiary. Then that money goes to whoever. And also with the funeral trust, if you have any money that's left over, if you have a designated beneficiary, then that money goes to that person. But if you don't, then if you have a funeral home listed, then that money goes into the funeral home. And with the state of Florida, the trust, the reason why they put it in trust is that's to counter the inflation. So that the prices go up, but then in the trust, by the money is growing interest in the trust, that's supposed to account for the inflation. Because the cash you know today would not pay what you paid 20 years ago, would not be at cost today. When I started working at the funeral home, I think our average funeral was less than $1,500. Today, the average funeral is ranges between $8,000 and $9,000. And if you consult cemeteries, depending on what cemetery you use, it's more than that. So a lot of people are going to cremation because it's less and it's not as much trouble, but some people still want to do the memorial services with the cremation, and that's optional. But and then the funeral home does not have to be involved in a memorial service. You can just make the arrangements to a funeral home, or like I said, the other agencies. But you don't have to involve, you can have a cremation service. I had some people have picnic, family reunion, have a church service, do a special doing a church service. Even if think of it sadly, weddings, because that's when families get together. That would be a good time to memorialize that person rather than families making a special trip for family here. But they've done it like before weddings or after weddings, they've had just a little small memorial service, because most of the time it'll be somebody's grandmother or grandmother or somebody related to the family. So it's just up to you on how you would want to handle it. Some people, you don't have to go to the church, average church service that we used to have. Everybody had to go to the church. Gravesides are growing, especially with the pandemic. A lot of people are doing graveside services, so they don't have to go into a church. I've had recreation centers. I've had parks. I mean, it's just where you want to play gardens. So it's just where you would want your service to be. Everything is changing. And I've seen so many changes in my life. Because, like I said, I started off way back almost in segregated time. So I would deal with Black folks. But now I've had white families. I have a couple of whites on pre-need. I'm just, and she probably can attest, she coming behind me, she's talking about no cremation, because that's up here. But I don't discriminate one way or the other. The bodies don't change. There's one time you hear white bodies turn black. That's not true. Embalming fluid makes the difference. And quite naturally, if a body's out a long time, I've been sick for a long time, a person is emaciated, the body's already turned black or white, whatever. It's already. So therefore, there are conditions that change bodies. You can get a bad car accident. If you've been sick, and that's the sad part about all funerals. It's the sad part, you haven't seen a person since you were in high school or young, and you come to see that person been ill for 2 years. And you're looking for that person to look just like they did when you saw them last 30 or 40 years ago. That's not the case. We don't even look that way in life. So how are you going to expect me to make myself go back to 40 years ago? So I mean, those are the factors. But with cremation, it makes it easy on your family, on your relatives, because they don't have to come into the showroom. One will say, mama like blue. The other one will say, oh no, mama's favorite color was pink. Another one will say, and sisters and brothers fall out over little simple things like that. Because quite naturally, if you gave your mama a blue dress, what's she gonna say? Oh, that's a beautiful blue dress. And then another would come back and say, well, I gave mama a pink dress. She's gonna say, oh, that's a beautiful dress. I love that. Because that's the way we mamas are. And we're not gonna hurt our children's feelings. So it quite naturally, whatever you think your mama like, you have to work together. And if that person is already set it up for you, you don't have that problem at all. And I tell people, if you belong with doing your pre-need, do a will, a trust fund. Because if you don't have that will in place, and people be saying they're not gonna go through probate, you never know when you're gonna have to go through probate. So therefore, it is legal, what's gonna happen after you die. Sometimes at least that you could get people who I know done every knock, they can knock. And they, I got a friend now, just called me, her father died last July. And she's an only child. And she thought everything was cut and dry. Last week, she was hit with some property. And she's the only child, but her name wasn't on it. Parents have forgot to put her name on it. And so therefore, you never know. So I tell you, if long as you have life and you can tell somebody what you want to happen to your body. Because regardless of where we're going to face it, not unless we all get caught up with the bone or nuclear, and then all of us go. But if you live in, let somebody, a child, you don't have a child, have a friend, a cousin, or somebody know something about it. You only have some people, I know people have been hurt by this because we have sometimes put the wrong person's name on their bank book. And people go to the bank, and especially people who have to go to nursing homes. They might go to nursing homes, but nursing homes are not permanent. You never do, sometimes you get better. The people that you least expect have stroke, but some of them come out the nursing home. So if you put the wrong person's name as your power of attorney, I've had people that have their houses sold. You don't have anywhere to go to. And see, if you are not going to have certain conditions, you can't stay in the nursing home. Because they're audited by state, governed by state. And you can't stay in a nursing home if you don't have some conditions that shows that you need to care, 24-hour care. And if you go in a nursing home, now the law is you have to have all your business steps. 5, it used to be 3 years, but it's 5 years now. Then if you have a house or something, you don't have anybody else's name on that house, then you need to put somebody's name or do something to determine what you're going to do with the house. Because otherwise, the nursing home can use that as an access and take it from you. And so, I mean, these are things, but that's why pre-need comes in. And a lot of nursing homes are really going into doing that, calling people in, because you can't have but $2,500, $2,500 in your assets in the nursing home. That's all the government allows you to have. So that's why a lot of people are going into doing pre-need too when they go into a convalescent home or home. Any questions? What you said questions after? Any? I don't know whether I've answered anything on here with a problem.
I have 2 questions. Did you say that this pre-need trust isn't regulated by the state or held by the state?
I said the one Funeral Service Inc., which is the one that we have, and then I also have a couple of insurances.
Okay.
I have an insurance agent that sells pre-need from my funeral home. In fact, I have 2 agents that sell pre-need. But the state handles Funeral Service Inc. And that's the one that you make through the state. When you get your money, we can go and turn it in right here to the office here. And then that's the easy one for us because we can go the day you die and go pick up our check right then. But for for funeral homes. But that's what that one is. But other ones have most of with the church, they have trust within themselves. Private, private companies would have their own trust. Mhm.
No, you go into your.
I went to a service for a young man who had been cremated, and the family had leased a boat, and they had like these turtles, and I guess they're not real turtles, fabricated, but apparently they passed some standard to be able to have cremains in them and then be set loose.
Yeah, well, with cremations, when you cremate a body, it's burnt to the least extent. It's just like sand. I guess it's white because the only thing that is left is your blood bone fraction. It's burnt down because your bones can't burn, or they can burn the fine, as fine as they can get, your teeth. But that's why they take jewelry off. Anybody who have hip replacement, metal can't burn, gold teeth can't burn. You can see it, and that's why a lot of people want you to take the gold teeth out, or the real ones, I'm talking about the fake ones, but because they can't burn. But anything, your bone is what burns. Your flesh can burn right there. But your body is burnt to the least expensive, and it's white. It's pretty white because it's bone structure. Yes, ma'am.
Could you, and I don't know if this is the forum for it, but could you talk about things that are maybe different than what I would know, or specific when it does come to working with Black families?
Like,
I don't know. Is
okay.
there?
Well, most of okay, I can go through some things. Most Black people keep our bodies out long. When we embalm our body, we embalm our bodies for 2 weeks. Because we don't know how long it's gonna be before the funeral. Because we wait for our relatives to come from wherever. Someone might not have the money to get here, but we're gonna send for them to get here. And then they wait for the funeral. That's one thing that's different. We are more emotional than you all probably are. We scream and we holler, we let out the grief. I have people call me from the nursing home because I still answer our phone a lot at night. Because I sleep, but I guess only 50 years I programmed my grandchildren tease me all the time. They tell me, well, Mama, you can hear the phone, but you don't hear the doorbell at all. We can ring, somebody can ring your doorbell, you don't hear anything or anything because I'm programmed to the phone. And they teach me that all the time. So if they come into my house at night, they know after 9 o'clock, my house is locked. So they have to call me if they come in to see me and need something out of my house. And they will call me on the phone. Because they say, Grandma, I've been ringing the doorbell, you hear what I did it last night. I said, I was looking at the basketball game on the bedroom, but they said, but you hear the doorbell. At any rate, that's another thing that we have more family to come and we do that, and more, like I said, more emotional. And we still like church services more so. Even with the pandemic, we still prefer, we use more limousines and cars. We're getting out of, and we sell food, real food at repast. Not no sandwiches and snacks. We have collard greens, fried chicken, baked chicken, yellow rice, and things like that. Since I've done both, now it's kind of a little different, but not too much. The main ones that we have with white are mostly men, but a very white women married Black men. And basically, that's basically the difference. And we spend probably more money, I guess, than white school funerals. Because people, and I learned that early in the field, misjudged the lady. She came in looking like she didn't have anything. And she walked, didn't have a car, I knew where she lived. And I tried to show her a least expensive casket. She wouldn't have, and said, I want this best thing you have on the floor. And I said, how is this lady gonna pay for this? The lady went into her bosom and pulled all this rent money out, but she had been saving for years. When I carried the Capital City Bank, the lady said, "We got it." I felt bad. Money was stuck together. And money, you know, over to keep money stuck together, it would be. And the cashier was wondering, I said, no, she saved this money. She said she had the best husband in the world, and he was the best provider. And she wanted to do the best thing she could do for him when he died. And at that time, I think she had about $8,000 or $9,000. And this was in the early 90s, late 80s one. But she said she had a good husband. She never had to work. And he took good care of her. And she wanted to spend her last on him. And she'd been saving this money, she said, ever for 20 or 25 years. Because they didn't have insurance. But like I say, a lot of us too depend on insurance to pay for our, a lot of people, we're getting away from it now, but I tell most people, if you have children, and the way society is now, these young people, and the way they're getting killed is to try from insurance on them until they are at least 25 or 30 years old. Because that's the average. Now, I used to get, but I'll try to get the words that get murdered. The ones that come to me are the ones that want out service. Because I don't get out and advertise and try to beg somebody for the money. And I know in the funeral profession now, you won't get rich, but you can make a living. And that's all we can do. Yes.
This is more of a comment than a question. 21 years ago, my aunt's funeral was at Strong and Jones. Daisy Young.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And I shall never forget, my aunt was kind of complicated because she never had any children. She never got married, and I was the closest thing she ever had to a child, but I had first cousins. And Aunt Daisy had already planned her funeral and paid for it 10 years before she died. She had chosen a plot, a whole 9 yards at the cemetery on North Monroe Street. Yeah, but anyway, my cousin was her personal representative in the will. And long story short, we had Strong Jones to sort of execute the actual funeral at Fountain Chapel AME Church. Long story short, I shall never forget, because there was a whole lot of bickering between me and her sister about money and Aunt Daisy's intentions. And I'll never forget when I came to Strong and Jones, when it was all over, you looked at me and you said, Bosco, you paid for your funeral. Because I did, I had, you know, my cousin was, you know, I paid for the funeral and you acknowledged that. But I think I had given you 2 checks, maybe totally $2,000 to $4,000, it doesn't matter. But I will never forget how easy it was to work with you. You made it so simple because I knew that she had already paid for her funeral 10 years before she died. And my cousin was trying to be clever. She wanted more money out of me because Aunt Daisy had left me money too. I went ahead and paid it. And I felt so good when you said, you paid for your aunt's funeral.
Right. But generally, like you said, once you're a person has done it, it makes it easier on the family, and it cuts down a whole lot of fussing and arguing. And people really don't realize what people go through until somebody dies in a family, especially when there are several children and they have different lifestyles. when we grow up, our sister and brother, we one, when we children. But when we get older, each person has their own lifestyle. And then don't let them be married and have other in-laws have to get into it as well as and grown grandchildren. So people, so it really makes it easy. I tell people that all the time. I don't be trying to sell funerals, but it really have something in plan where people will know what you want, your wish, rather than them trying to do their wishes. And even then, even when you have a lawyer's thing involved, you still have problems sometimes. But the funeral profession was not my choice profession. I teased these ladies when I came in. I was a media specialist. I have my library. I have my master's in library science. I finished college. And the only reason I went into the funeral profession, I grew up in the funeral home. I did do that. Funeral home is, our funeral home will be 75 years this year. It's already 75. And it was older than that, but when it was incorporated as Strong and Jones was in 1947. But the funeral home and I are the same age. I'll be 8 years old. And the funeral home and I are basically the same age. And so I tried, that's my only reason that I don't work every day. Most people, as I tell them, they tell me that I come to the funeral home socialization. I usually go down on Friday afternoon because they always tell me, Mama, people be looking by. I have a son that's there. And then I have 3 other funeral directors. Daryl Lawrence, who was a partner of my original partner, is still there. And so they tell me I come because people be asking, and they beg me sometimes, Mom, please come down here because that family been asking for you and want to see you. Mm-hmm. And please, if you don't know, just stick your head in the door. Let them see you and let them see how you do. That's basically it.
That's good. Thank you.
That's good.
What's that? I just tell people, please, if you want to do the stuff to the cat, put it in writing. Put it in writing. Because that's the key to all of it, is put it in writing. It takes you, because it'll cost your family thousands of dollars. It's like a marriage. It's easy to get into the marriage, but it's hard to get the divorce. So therefore, when you die, if you don't have, take it to the lawyer and put it in writing some kind of way, and they recognize even handwritten letters that you put somewhere was notarized or not notarized. They're saying that this is what you want. Legal, they can take that. But if you don't, your family starts bickering. You're gonna spend $1,000, end up with nothing. Sometimes the lawyer end up with everything. Because the lawyer in Florida, believe it or not, entitled 50%. If you want 50% of your estate. Guess what? Now that you find a good one, now you get lawyers are kind of competitive. So you might can find one, you can look around and discuss, you might want to do a little more reason with the other. Okay, Mel.
Just a comment about the clothing, the pink dress, the blue dress, this suit, that suit. My mother was 92 when she died, and she orchestrated her own death by not eating after she had a colostomy. She decided no one was going to take care of that, and she wasn't going to have anyone take care of it. So she had already planned her funeral about 10 years before that. And she loved to wear nightgowns, beautiful nightgowns. My mother was buried in a nightgown.
Yeah, that's
And the sense of it is she's gone to sleep.
right.
And so she was laid out. They had a viewing, and she was in her nightgown.
Right.
But she got a Christmas, then she was buried in February.
Yeah, that's an option too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I don't know if it was discussed before I got here a little bit late. the brochure that I saw said something about green funerals.
I can talk on that.
Ten
Yeah.
bucks.
I can talk on that.
That can be your discussion.
I mean, sure.
Okay.
And that's what I want.
Okay,
Thank you, that's great.
okay.
Thank you so much.
I don't have anything printed out or written or anything, but these are my business cards, and I hate to tell you, just go see our website, but that's where everything is, and you can find everything on our website, even our prices are on our website, we're very transparent, and obviously call me too, but everything's printable, a lot of stuff's printable on there. So my name's Sarah Taylor with Lifesong Funeral Home. I've been licensed to sell insurance in the pre-need industry as far as that, in that regard, since '05, so 18 years, I guess it is. I've been in the funeral business my whole life. Well, my grandfather was funeral director, my husband's a funeral, my dad's a funeral director, and my husband, I married a funeral director. So I did not get my funeral director's license. I got my you have to have a life insurance license to sell it and fund it through insurance. So that's what I do. That's my primary goal at the funeral home. I'm also the bookkeeper and everything else that you are when you own a funeral home and own a family business. So I work primarily with my husband. We're family owned. We've been established since 2015, so 7 years. As far as the pre-need industry is concerned and pre-funding and pre-planning your funeral, since that's primarily what we're here to talk about. I know a lot of questions come up when anybody's got a funeral director in the room. To answer your question about the urn, yes, that would be a floating biodegradable urn, and yeah, they've got everything now. If you get on and Google urns, it's like, yeah, so it's just a biodegradable, and it's designed to float for a little while, and then once it soaks in the water, then it sinks down. So that's that. But so we can touch on all that kind of stuff. But I do, like Miss Griffin explained, there's two ways to legally fund your funeral, and it was created in the 80s. It used to be you would just go down to the funeral home and give them a wad of cash and say, hold that till grandma dies. And then, a decade later, when grandma dies, oopsie, we've spent your money, on the mortgage or whatever, we're dissolved and there's no funeral home. So they did initiate a law, and we are regulated by the Department of Finance. You have to fund them either through a trust or through an insurance. And then that money is held there until you're passing, and then the funeral home makes a claim and is paid at the time, which makes great sense. People are giving you money for a service that you're not getting them. So it's wonderful. I'm glad I don't have to keep up with all this money. So the way we fund it through our insurance, it goes straight to the insurance and they hold it there. And like Ms. Griffin explained, it's a policy in that specific amount. So you wouldn't come to me and we write out a $20,000 life insurance policy. We would sit down and have all of your needs and wants and put a price to that. And then that's what the policy is in the amount of. So the way I always describe the planning process when I initially sit down with people is I tell them there's two parts to it. The first part is I'm acting as the funeral home, as the funeral director. I think that's what's different probably about arranging with me or Miss Griffin. We are first and foremost funeral professionals. A lot of people now, especially with all the sales agents, a lot of them have a sales background. I'm not a salesperson. You're not a salesperson. We're funeral people. So we have to be both. But first and foremost, we are acting on the funeral home's behalf. So we gather all the information ahead of time that we can, that the funeral home will need at the time of death, like Ms. Griffin explained, the vital statistics. We save those. Those are things that are never going to change about you. So the funeral home can save those. They're asked on the death certificate. So the funeral home will need those at the time of passing. So you're not having to sit down with the grieving widow and ask about what their mother's maiden name was and what their occupation was. And you've already got it all there. We get any signatures that are required, like for instance, with a cremation, there's always a signature required, but by the family. Just obviously that's a big act. So you want to get something in writing saying that, in fact, we do want this person cremated. We get that ahead of time. And then I turn into the life insurance agent and I go into the funding portion of it. So we've already kind of outlined everything that we want. We put a price on it, and then we go into the life insurance policy and we put it there. The difference between a trust and a life insurance policy, over the years, we have sold trusts. We have only sold life insurance probably since, unless there's like a, certain instance where, for the most part, we do insurance because you really can't really be denied. I mean, there's beyond like 90, they want you to, you have to put it in the trust. You are insured in that. So let's say, you want to go on a 3-year payment plan, and there's a couple of health questions. But if you answer no to all those health questions and you checked out with your doctor, then you're insured from day one. So if you've made that first month's payment and then God forbid something happens in 6 months and you pass away, then your whole funeral is covered. If it's accidental, if you do have a couple of health issues, you're on a guaranteed issue, but you've got a limited death benefit for those first 2 years. So it's like with any other policy, you always get in what you pay for, plus the interest it's earned. But you're admitting, yes, I've got, cancer or some kind of a terminal illness. So you've got to pay at least 24 payments and then the policy is covered. So most people hope that they just pay out the policy and don't die before and get a, funeral
Can you
paid for.
pay it all up front?
Yes, yep.
And then you're covered?
Yes, yeah, and then you're insured because the policy paid for it. And primarily a lot of the industry is just going, you mentioned 30% was your cremation. Our African Americans and Caucasian Americans, still, it's very different. We're 50% across the board at our funeral home. We're 70-80%, just because we kind of designed our funeral home to be that, because we know that's the way it's going. So we didn't want to start a new funeral home and base it on these $20,000 funerals that aren't going to be around for too long. So we're primarily cremation. Down south, 80% cremation everywhere you go, across the board. So central, the Midwest still holding on a little bit with the cremation, with the burials, but, and it's not just price, it's not just there's nowhere to go. There's, a lot of baby boomers are just, we want to have a party and we want to scatter at sea and we're not going to go mourn at the cemetery. And it's just changed. You don't go to church on Sunday and then go to grandma's grave anymore. People are over here and then this way, and then one's down in, Central Florida, one's in California. So it's just a more reasonable option for people. And you do have so many more options. Like Ms. Griffin was saying, you can do so many more things. You can wait. There's not the rush of a burial that's, now. You can wait until Christmas, wait until the wedding. People do that. Do your own thing, use the funeral home. So it's a little bit more flexible. But we do funerals as well. We can service any funeral home can service any cemetery. So just because, a certain cemetery is owned by a certain funeral home doesn't mean you have to use them. Unfortunately, we've run out of city space pretty much. So it's getting there, that you really only have an option of using a privately owned cemetery if that's the way you want to go.
Like plots that we're not going to use.
Yeah.
But they'll only sell them for the price that we bought them for. And that was like $5 in 19.
Right. Is it a city cemetery? It used to be that people put those in the paper, but there's no paper anymore. I mean, I would try. I'm not on social media, but you can sell them. Certain funeral homes will buy them. What cemetery is that? You have to.
Oakwood.
Okay, Oakland Cemetery. Yeah,
Oakland.
yeah. I would think that would be pretty sellable, honestly. But yeah, it used to be look in the papers and do cemetery plots. Yeah.
What about this? And the
National Cemetery.
Yes, we've got the National Cemetery, and we're very lucky to have that. We do a lot of veteran burials. A lot of veterans are being cremated though, but so the VA provides the burial vaults. They provide the opening, closing, the grave itself, and the headstone.
And that's just for the veteran?
And no veteran and spouse or dependent child. So, and the veteran doesn't have to go first. Some people ask that, they're like, well, what if I die? What if the wife dies first? And you don't have to hold the wife until the husband, so they'll go ahead and hold the wife. But they're very pleased to have that, and they're very helpful out there. It's beautiful if you haven't been.
Yeah, the good part about that too, they can do double.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, they've got it figured out. Anything else that we can think of?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I'm training to be an end-of-life doula, and one of the things that we are taught to encourage the family is that the death is not an emergency, to take some time with the body still in the house and the family and everything. Is there a Leon County ordinance or law or anything that dictates you have to call within X number of hours?
No. I mean, if you come and somebody's, there's a smoking gun on the ground, you probably need to call
Right.
authorities immediately. But no, if it's a natural death and you're there to prepare them for that, No, we have people call us and they'll say, mom's died, but it's not uncommon. I'm sure, especially for you, that can we wait till tomorrow? And they'll want to be with her overnight or, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, depending on circumstances, but yeah, there is no rush for the most part, though. I don't find that happens very often. They've been with mom. They're kind of ready to, when somebody dies, 5 minutes seems like 5 hours. So, but yeah, the police, yeah. But if hospice is involved, I don't know if you.
No, hospice is not involved. Hospice is police.
Right.
But when a person dies naturally and don't have another doctor care, then the officers.
Then the law
And the
enforcement.
officers be rushing the family, because I think sometimes they don't want to be bothered, stay at a family house.
But if the officer can come and get word from the medical examiner that they've been released and that the medical examiner does not need to see them, then it's okay. So, yeah, but for the most part, but yes, there's no huge rush, but a lot of times they'll want to wait and, so-and-so's coming and, so it's, depends on where you pass away, but even nursing homes and the hospice house will let people come in and wait a bit until people get there, so. There's no huge rush.
In terms of burial, I have some friends that have just buried family members on their own land and everything, and done their own service and preserved the body their own way and everything. Is that, all of those are legal in Florida?
You have to have a burial transit permit, which a funeral director has to do. And my husband's done a couple out of the co-op, but we were able to do the burial transit permit. But we've had somebody that didn't want us to even do the transit permit. So I don't know that you have to ask a funeral director about that, and it doesn't happen very often.
The property not at one time you could, depends on how long they've been buried on that. The laws have changed on that. Now, it has to be approved, it has to be so much
10
land,
acres, 10 acres.
et cetera.
Yeah.
Now, but if they have to use it, it could be grandfathered in.
Yeah. But as far as the caring for the body, you're traveling with it yourself. Yeah, you can't. When a lot of people with green burials.
Well, that's what
That's a green burial
About
thing.
green burial and home funerals. Have you
No, but
know much about home funerals?
then that's kind of what she's talking about. Like everybody would meet out at the co-op and, yeah. I mean, like I said, we've done that like once or twice, but no, there's not that many people that want to start a cemetery on their property,
Kind of
Yeah,
changing, don't you think?
yeah. I mean, if they've got 10 acres and
So that would be one of the limiting factors is how much land is.
10 acres, you have to have designated as it's your private property and then.
Aren't there cemeteries that are designated as green burials?
Yeah, and there's certain sections, I think, we have 2 in our area. There's the one Prairie Creek, which is in Gainesville, and then there's the Defuniak Springs one, which is the other one. I can't think of the name right now. Both Prairie Creek is a lot more organized. This one's a lot more laid back. So it kind of depends on what you want, but you'd have to still pay the funeral home to prepare you. Yep. And there's no, so it's like a Jewish burial, really. It's an immediate burial. There's no embalming, wrapping in a shroud. We still have to do the permits and that sort of thing, and then transportation to the place.
So that's where the body essentially decomposes on its own, sans chemicals.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's $2,000 for the plot down there. I think they're a little less in Defuniak. And then they'll go and they dig the grave, and family can come dig the grave if they want. And then they're buried, and they have like natural stones and little plaques. Yes.
Yeah, with the green burial, how much time elapses when the person dies to when they're actually buried? Because of what you were addressing.
Yeah, I don't know that there's like a.
Yes, and then yes, to be 48 hours.
Well, I think we use. I mean, it's as quick as we can. But
48. No longer, with an excuse, you can keep it over to 72 hours.
Okay.
But it has to be buried within,
Then
because
2
of the odors and things like that, and atmosphere, environment, diseases and things like that come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the law. That's the.
48
Lickety split.
Yeah, so you want to be, there's not much seeing you if you live in Chicago and you want to come home and see mom, and so kind of be prepared for that.
You all said you focus on cremation. there's something called water cremation.
Yeah, my husband just mentioned that the other day. We don't necessarily focus on cremation, but everybody, that's the way everybody's focused, so we went with it. Yeah, it's a new thing. It used to be that it would take a really long time, like 8 hours, which a typical cremation is like 3 hours. So that you don't really, as a funeral home, want to wait 8 hours for put the next person in. So they do now have a 4-hour one, but it's a lot more money to purchase, but apparently it costs less for the consumer. I don't know, it's may get here.
Yeah, I've just been reading.
Yeah, it's been, on the radar, but not here yet. I mean, this is still just, we're still pretty removed from. But some of the Jacksonville probably has one. I think Dolly even said, okay, the new one, that's what he said, the 4-hour one, nobody has yet. But there's only a few water cremations even in Florida. So California, and
What is it?
it's some kind of a chemical process in water so there's no emissions. There's no
dissolves.
right. Yeah, and I have no idea what the ashes would look like. I mean, it's not even ashes. I don't know there's nothing to even, I haven't gotten that far yet. I know a lot about cremations and burials, but yes, sir.
Are there any plans to have a green burial here in Tallahassee, or is that something not on the?
I doubt it. I hate to say that, but I seriously doubt it. Nobody's jumping to open up any kind of cemetery property, it doesn't seem. Yeah, I mean, a green burial would be the best route because it'd be the least expensive probably for the cemetery. Because cemeteries apparently cost a lot to run. I mean, you don't make up your money for years and years and years. So with a green burial, but like even Prairie Creek, it's a nonprofit. So I don't know how they've mostly volunteers, and so I don't know how they're.
I see. You said that's in Gainesville?
It's in Gainesville, yep. And then but the funeral home here would transport you there, and that's included. So.
Are they on the web?
Yes, yeah, they have a really good website. We've got their video on our website too. They've got a good video. We've got,
On your website?
yes, on our website, you can find, hopefully you can find it easily. Prices, I think, if you go there. It's pretty easy to talk around, but they do have a good video. And you can, so if, for instance, I just did this the other day, somebody wanted to prepay with me for not the anatomical, the green burial. But you were not able to prepay with them, but in my pre-need, I built in $2,000 so that at the time of death, we could pay for her cemetery plot. So.
Question, she brought up something really interesting about how if you donate your body to science, they have the right to reject it. So, I mean.
Before you get all the way down there.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, I was like, well,
No, we don't
hold
want
on,
this.
yeah. You're not gonna show up in Gainesville and then they're gonna be like, take you back. No, you have to be approved before and go through the, right.
So my little organ donor card.
That's it really doesn't mean anything, to be honest. Yeah,
What?
it doesn't mean much.
Can use, but don't let your body.
But just by having that on your
But that's only
card.
permanent.
But the organ donor.
Takes place.
The only problem we have the organ donor is, I don't want to cut on.
No, go to.
I've had this problem with organ donor. The lady she wanted an organ donor. I thought it was at the organ skin. I don't remember. Her children did not want that. We had to hold them up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the family does have
They
the
got
final.
a law.
They're playing refrigeration all the time.
If I get refrigeration all this time, they got a lawyer to fight, and they won, because they were the family.
Yeah.
And then once all went over from what the lady had predicted, and that's the same, and that's what I found out. I mean, because they were determined that their public were not gonna give it all. And even that's what her driver's license, that's what she said. And these two daughters.
But you do have to make sure that the family knows it, because I think that the family does have the final say, even if you have that on.
They know it,
Right.
but they did not tell our
No, we don't want her to do that.
And they legally got a lawyer, and that's why I say now, I'm saying my lawyer. At one time you get, but lawyers were pretty honest, but now you can get a lawyer to fight any case you want. Because there's so many out there.
But what you got done with the lawyer
Right. I know, yeah. It's not that often that there's arguments about organs. I don't, not in my experience. Yes, ma'am.
About people will fight.
Do the organs get, I mean, in order to actually
Harvest the
donate,
organ.
harvest organs, it has to be a very specific.
Quickly.
Right, like-
This is
Right.
done at the hospital, I'm pretty sure, if you die at the hospital, or they'll come to the funeral home quickly if it's a home
So
death.
otherwise it's kind of
Right.
Mhm, and they gotta come
have
quick.
That kind of a death.
Mhm.
But it was, I mean, with that kind of lawsuit, they couldn't donate.
No, right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that was the point, just drag it out.
But I mean, the only thing, it was enough to stop the process.
Right.
That's the main thing. I think it could stop the process.
Yep.
There was-
Funding.
How much does a cremation, just the cremation cost?
Everybody's different. Ours is $15.95 for our direct cremation. And that's, removal, taking to our facility, holding until we get that doctor's cause back and then that ME approval. For the most part, the cremation wait time is we're waiting on the doctor. They legally have 72 hours from the time they get the death certificate. So if the family's gonna send me the vitals and then they don't call you for another day and then you don't get it in until, so it's not necessarily from the time of death. From the time that the funeral director enters that vital and pings it over to the doctor, they legally have 72 hours.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of like what you were talking about, paying for a service and then not getting it because they're out of business or whatever. Let's just say we've done the whole prepaid everything with you guys, and whatever condition it is, we're in the hospital with here, they transfer us to Shands, we expire at Shands. Does that mean one of your partners, somebody's down in Gainesville, or, I mean?
If
who's
you're
gonna
close
get you there?
enough that it's economically best for us to drive down and get you, Shands, we drive all the time and get people.
Really?
Yes, and then we just cover that. If it's too far, then we would contract with another funeral home. If somebody passes away in Miami, we'd look on Google now. We used to have this big red phone book, but now we look on Google, we find another family funeral home, we call them and say, hey, what's your pickup and cremate and ship? And they have a special charge to a trade to another funeral home. They're not gonna be $15.95. I don't charge another funeral home that, because I'm not having to meet with the family. All I'm doing is doing a removal, doing a cremation, and I'm dealing with a funeral home. So then I would pay that funeral home the $600 for their portion of the work, and then I would get the rest of the premium, so. So it's, and if you move, you would I would not be involved. I mean, if you moved away, you would just say, hey, I moved up here, and I'd say, hey, you want me to help you find a funeral home, or, you figure it out, and then you'd still use it there. They would just cash it.
Is there anything along the lines of just about anything to be scammed? Are there scams out there? I keep getting letters from the Neptune Society.
No, they're not a scam, yeah.
I don't know if it's good or not.
They just have a lot more advertising budget than I do. I wish I could. So the Neptune Society is owned by Service Corporation International, SCI. They're the biggest conglomerate in the United States. They're out of Houston. They're the ones when you see the Dignity Memorial, that's SCI. So anytime you see that used to be an old family funeral home, and then SCI came and bought it up and paid them millions of dollars. Boom, boom, boom. They get these old funeral homes. A lot of times the families stick around and still do the work. So it looks like a family funeral home, but it's SCI. So they in the 70s started Neptune Society as a cremation society to do, but like Neptune Society here doesn't have their own crematory. They use the crematory at their Dignity site in town. So, but no, it's not a scam. It's the same thing. They have their own insurance company and all this trust and stuff. They're a good bit more than me though. So
we use our phones.
yeah.
Do you have to have an urn?
No, a temporary urn's included. We all pretty much use the same. It's a cardboard box with a box and a bag. Very secure. We call it temporary because I think in the industry, they wanted you to think it was gonna disintegrate or something. So you needed to buy something else, but it's fine. You can bury it at the National Cemetery. You can bury it in your yard. Scattered.
Okay, so
How
are you okay with the
Yeah,
box?
no.
Thanks, Mom.
It
You
depends.
asked the question.
What I always say about an urn, you need to decide what you're gonna do with it, and then that determines what type of urn. Even people say, oh, we're just gonna scatter. To me, it's worth the extra $75 or $95 to buy a scattering tube. It's a biodegradable tube, makes it real easy. I don't know if you've ever seen The Big Lebowski, but scattering ashes is never always as easy as it seems. So there is, and when we don't try to upsell, we just try to, what are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna keep it on the mantle? You might wanna do this, or if you're gonna scatter, I'd see. or get the
And
box.
some people have their own containers.
Oh, yeah, people will make them or bring something in. I've used a Beatles lunchbox and mailed it back to Liverpool for her friend to take over to, yeah.
Oh,
That was, and I held it for like years because I had
Precious.
prenated and she had nobody else here. So I had that Beatles lunchbox.
That sounds like, was that
And she
my
took
sister?
pictures. And then finally, and when it was COVID, so then the friend kept it for a year and then finally sent me pictures of her with the Beatles lunchbox like a year and a half later. Finally we're in Liverpool, doing this. So that's cool. So yeah, you can do anything.
What about in Tallahassee, burying two people in one gravesite?
If it's a city-owned cemetery, you've got a lot more flexibility. Privately owned cemeteries can sell you more. So why would they want to put you double stacked if they could sell you one right here? Right.
Tallahassee Member Garden has a section now where they do double and triple.
Good. Yeah. And they should, because that's the smartest thing to do. Yeah. But
And
yeah.
the VA doesn't.
Traditionally
The VA
speaking,
doesn't.
there's a little more flexibility with cities. Same with vaults. Certain cemeteries require them, cities don't because they're not in the business to sell vaults. So, however you do, it is better to have a vault, to be honest with you, but you don't have to. Yes, ma'am.
Where's the cremation actually done?
So our crematory is in, we have two locations. One's in Tallahassee, our Midtown. We've only been open there since July. And then our main office is in Quincy, and that's where our chapel is and our retort and so the bodies are never at our Midtown location. So it's all there.
So the cremation is done in Quincy.
In Quincy, yep. Zoning in this town for a crematory, you can imagine, Cully's is grandfathered in from the, eons that they've been there, but you can't get a crematory in the middle of town anymore. So it's better just to keep it out there. Yeah. And people kind of like, so our second location is it's an old house that we've converted into. It's just a meeting space and people come pick up the cremains there, but they know that their loved ones always do it.
A chapel or anything like that, that's.
Just Quincy, yep, but then we can service any, like Ms. Griffin was saying, the women's home, the women's club, the Dorothy Oven, that's a good one, popular one. Church, any church, graveside, a lot of people did gravesides during COVID.
And I problem with recreation centers.
Yeah.
The playground.
Yes, all the city-owned properties are really affordable too, or they used to be.
And even with Memorial Center, here you see playgrounds and different parks and things like that.
Yeah.
And then they're scattered, a lot of them scattered right there in the playground, actually right there in the road.
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know. Is anybody telling them they're doing that?
Yeah, and it's legal too. You know, it's a lot of-
Any more questions? Thank y'all. Thank you for coming. Anything else? Anything to think
This is
of?
excellent.
But yeah, look us up on the web.
For the great information you have shared with us. Remember to do your evaluations. This will make our programs even better. So if you can, and then there's a little box back there, you can drop it in. Next week is our last week of the 6-week session, and we're going to be talking about sitting with the dying, rituals and care at the bedside. And we're going to have Kamala Snow with the performance of the members. I think there's 8 singers coming, the Threshold Choir singers. And
Not choir, I read that. email. It
Yes.
was not choir.
not choir, singers.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Threshold Choir,
Uh-huh.
and I think there are 6 or 8 people, not me,
Okay.
but yeah, and we sing